Versailles was designed to be seen. From the moment visitors approached its vast courtyards and stepped into its glittering halls, everything communicated order, magnificence, and control. When Louis XIV transformed his father's hunting lodge into the political center of France, he created more than a residence. He built a carefully orchestrated environment where architecture itself became a tool of authority. Yet, behind the marble columns and gilded ceilings existed a second Versailles, one hidden within the walls. The palace eventually housed thousands of people. Courtiers, servants, guards, diplomats, and ministers filled its corridors daily. In such a dense and ceremonial environment, movement had to be regulated. The king's public appearances were choreographed events. His rising in the morning and retiring at night were witnessed by select nobles who competed fiercely for access. Proximity to the monarch meant influence. But if every person moved through the same grand halls, the spectacle would have dissolved into disorder. To maintain both efficiency and hierarchy, architects embedded a hidden circulation system within the structure. Narrow service corridors ran parallel to the ground galleries. Staircases were built inside thick masonry walls. Concealed doors blended seamlessly into decorative paneling. Behind the dazzling hall of mirrors, servants moved quietly, replacing candles and preparing adjoining rooms without disturbing ceremonies. The illusion of effortless grandeur depended entirely on this invisible labor. Louis XIV understood the power of unpredictability. While he made himself publicly accessible during formal rituals, he also preserved private routes connecting his apartments to administrative offices and select chambers. These passageways allowed him to bypass crowded rooms when necessary. In a court where nobles constantly observed one another, the king's ability to appear unexpectedly reinforced his dominance. Architecture became an extension of political strategy. The service network was highly structured. Certain staircases were reserved for members of the royal household. Others were strictly for servants. Rank determined which paths an individual could use. The palace physically enforced social hierarchy. A noble might stand beneath painted ceilings and crystal chandeliers, while only steps away, a servant navigated a dim, narrow corridor hidden within the same wall. As Versailles expanded under Louis XV and Louis XVI, additional private apartments were added. With each expansion came further refinement of concealed routes. The later kings valued privacy even more than their predecessor. Smaller, more intimate rooms were connected through discreet passageways, allowing the monarch to retreat from constant observation. Though the court revolved around visibility, true decision-making often occurred away from public view. Architectural studies conducted centuries later revealed just how intricate this hidden infrastructure was. The palace functioned almost like a living organism, with grand ceremonial spaces forming the visible body and service corridors acting as its circulatory system. Without them, daily life would have stalled. Food deliveries, heating systems, maintenance, and communication all relied on unseen movement. These passageways were not myths or emergency escape tunnels built in fear. They were deliberate design choices. They ensured that Versailles operated smoothly while preserving the mystique of effortless royal power. Visitors saw symmetry, spectacle, and order. What they did not see was the constant activity occurring just beyond the walls. When the royal family departed during the Revolution in 1789, the spectacle ended, but the architecture remained. Today, tourists walk through restored galleries, often unaware of the corridors hidden only feet away. The hidden passageways of Versailles reveal a fundamental truth about monarchy. Power may demand to be seen, but it depends just as heavily on what remains concealed.
Versailles was more than a palace. It was the center of French political life. By relocating the nobility there, Louis XIV ensured that the aristocracy remained under his watchful presence. Thousands lived within the estate's orbit, all bound by etiquette and routine. Yet, in such a concentrated environment, privacy was rare and control was essential. The hidden passageways played a central role in managing both. Court life revolved around observation. Nobles monitored one another constantly, hoping to gain advantage. Access to the king's chambers could define a career. But while courtiers competed in visible spaces, the monarch retained the ability to move beyond their gaze. Private staircases linked his rooms to secure areas of the palace. Messages could be delivered without public interruption. Advisors could enter discreetly. Decisions shaping the kingdom were often made far from the spectacle of the main galleries. The architecture subtly reinforced surveillance. Guards could navigate service routes to reach sensitive areas without alarming guests. Staff used hidden corridors to prepare rooms in advance of royal arrival. Even the design of apartments reflected layers of access, with outer rooms more public and inner chambers increasingly restricted. The deeper one moved into the palace, the fewer people were permitted to follow. Under Louis XV and Louis XVI, the desire for intimacy grew stronger. Smaller private apartments were created behind formal staterooms. These spaces were connected through discreet doors and narrow passages that allowed the royal family to live somewhat apart from relentless ceremony. The palace maintained its public rituals, but behind them unfolded a quieter domestic life. Security concerns also shaped the design. Though Versailles was not a military fortress, it required controlled circulation. Hidden routes enabled rapid communication and flexible movement in times of tension. When unrest grew in 1789 and crowds approached the palace, the very corridors once used for ceremony and discretion became pathways of urgent movement. The royal family ultimately left Versailles, marking the end of its role as the heart of monarchy. Today, historians studying the building's structure continue to uncover evidence of its layered design. Restoration work has revealed concealed staircases and blocked doorways, reminders of how carefully movement was orchestrated. What appears to visitors as a seamless sequence of magnificent rooms is in reality a complex network separating public display from private function. The hidden passageways of Versailles demonstrate how architecture can embody political philosophy. Absolute monarchy required visibility, ritual, and spectacle, but it also required separation, discretion, and control. The palace achieved both through design. Behind every brilliant gallery existed a shadowed corridor, ensuring that the performance of power never faltered. In the end, the mystery of these passageways is not about secrecy for its own sake. It is about structure. Versailles functioned as both stage and backstage, a place where grandeur depended on hidden systems. Beneath its polished surfaces lay a network that sustained authority, managed hierarchy, and protected the privacy of those at the center of France's royal world.